All right.
Okay. I'll take the lead.
Okay. Well, we're recording, so.
Okay. Exciting.
All right.
So what are we doing here? So I'll take the lead. Yay. I wasn't ready for this one. But let's do
I put you on the
that.
spot, right?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. All right.
All right. So, you guys, this is Pete Isip. Pete, you're gonna present this to your gym members. They know you. They know Crank. If I present this to anybody, they may not know you. So I'm gonna introduce you. You're Pete Isip. You own Crank Gym in Nutley, New Jersey. I'm Ryan Muncie with Natural Stacks. I'm our chief optimizer. Pete is going to interview me and throw questions at me that have been gathered and collected by the members at your gym, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the idea here is that we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to provide some information that will help people.
Main goal. That is the main goal.
Okay.
All right. So let's shoot.
Fire away.
That was a curveball because I didn't know how to introduce myself. It's very weird. So we're gonna do it that way. Start off that way, and he introduced it. Everyone's got 1,000 questions, right? But they never know the source to ask or trust mainly, right? Everything's out. There's a lot of stuff to read. A lot of stuff. Exactly. I like this guy, I know this guy, and I trust this guy with my kid. You know what I mean? Like that's huge. So for me to say that means a lot towards Ryan, and that's why I asked him, or he also asked me to see if he could be a source for us. And I think just getting some feedback from an outside source rather than hearing the same things that I say over and over again is going to be beneficial for you guys. So the biggest question is always, you always talk about protein in nutrition. Why is protein so important, and how much of it do I need?
All right. So protein, when we talk about food, there are three macronutrients: protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Fats and carbohydrates are our energy sources. Protein is not an energy source. So what it is then is a building block for our immune system and our muscles. No matter which dietary protocol you follow, whether you're vegetarian or paleo or high carb or low carb, your protein requirements are going to be fairly constant throughout any dietary protocol. And I think I start with that statement to kind of show the importance of protein. So, no matter how you eat, you need protein because it supports your immune system, it supports your muscles, and you know, there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to protein. So, one of those being that if I'm a bodybuilder, I need to eat 300 grams of protein a day.
Right.
That's not true. Maybe if you're trying to become Mr. Olympia, you need more protein than somebody who has a normal body weight. You also have to remember that most of those bodybuilders who are becoming Mr. Olympia are using things that help them synthesize protein at a supernatural rate.
Right.
That's not you, that's not us. If that's you, you know that's you. So, for most normal people or the average person, somewhere between zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.8 grams per pound of body weight tends to work well. Now, if you're maybe a CrossFitter or somebody who is working out extremely intensely and you're doing it with a high frequency, say 5, 6, even 7 days a week, then that number may go up to, maybe a gram per pound of body weight per day or a little higher than that. So just for comparison, I weigh about 190 pounds. I probably eat about a pound of protein a day.
Okay.
So that might be about 100 to 120 grams, 150 grams on a high day. So I think most people are going to be in that 0.5 to zero point 0.8 range.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good. It's a good number for them to follow, and just them having to do the equations for it. Now you're talking a lot about how your energy sources are carbohydrates and fats. Now let's play into the next one, which is low carb dieting. Everything out there. How beneficial is low carb dieting versus just really getting a balanced meal plan?
So I think the number one thing that I always want to remind people of is when we're talking about nutrition, fitness, business, doesn't matter what you're talking about.
Right.
uh, you always have to remember what your goal is. Any advice that you hear, you need to kind of filter it through this filtration process of, you know, does the person saying this have the same type of end result in mind that I do? So are they trying to get to the same place that I'm trying to get to?
Right.
Are they trying to achieve the same things I'm trying to achieve? What's my goal in doing this? Why am I trying to do this? So, like let's say you're rehabbing from an injury and you're trying to come back and be bigger, faster, stronger than you are right now. And
Right.
let's say I am trying to lose 50 pounds and become healthier than I am now after living a sedentary lifestyle and not paying attention to what I eat. We're going to have slightly different applications on a daily basis of how we eat, but the general principles and the processes are always going to be the same. So we're both human beings. Our anatomy, our physiology is the same. And
Right.
so I think we need a basic understanding of what we're trying to accomplish, why we're trying to accomplish it, and we use that to kind of filter and apply the science. And the science is that, our default setting as a human being when we're born is to be a fat burner. We are fat adapted when we're born, and our bodies simply function better with a minimal effective dose of carbohydrates. So again, how you perform and what your goals are will dictate carbohydrate requirements similar to protein. So again, if it, we'll use CrossFitters as an example because I think that's one that people can easily visualize and understand.
Right.
If I'm doing CrossFit and I'm working out at a very high intensity and I'm doing it very frequently, my carbohydrate requirement is going to be higher than somebody who is not exercising that intensely or that frequently. So there's kind of like this curve or graph where the more frequently and the more intensely you work out, the more carbohydrates you need. For the rest of us, a minimal effective dose, it varies from person to person, but that's where we want to be. And we want those carbohydrates to come from natural sources.
Right.
So, again, no matter how you eat, the best way to go about it is to just eat real food. If man made it, don't eat it. Um, you know, avoid sugars, avoid highly processed oils, avoid the things that we know are bad for us. If you do that, you're 80 or 90% of the way there. Everything else is just kind of, uh, you know, ticky tacky and splitting hairs, right? And that stuff's fun. I mean, for me, like somebody who, my degree's in nutrition, so getting into the science and the details, I love doing that. But for the average person, you know, just eat high quality meats that are grass fed and wild caught fish. Avoid inflammatory oils. Sorry, that's a tongue twister.
Right.
Cut out the sugar. So if you are eating carbohydrates, make sure that they come from vegetables or real food, that you're not drinking high fructose corn syrup in a big gulp.
Right.
So I think I know I'm not sure that that really answers the question specifically, but I think I'm trying to provide a foundation to where maybe if we want to get into it more specifically, or dig into details, then at least we have that background knowledge.
Right. No, I think you answered it perfectly fine. I think people stray away from eating carbohydrates all the time because that's what is pressed. That's what's out there, no matter what. And
What's Yeah, and it's certainly. I mean, look, we most people, most Americans eat more carbohydrates than they need.
right.
We're not as active as we used to be as a society. We have access to food in a way that we've never had before. So if you look, most of us, or the people who have metabolic issues, we're not eating and living in a way that's in harmony with our biology or our nature. And that's it's kind of a weird thing. I mean, there's a book called The Omnivore's Dilemma. Michael Pollan, that's a great book. Anything that you can read where it kind of talks about, you know, we had to go through this process of agriculture, and in the last 50 to 60 years, it's gone from the process of agriculture to, um, you know, the world that we know now. 70 years ago, you didn't have Walmarts, you didn't have grocery stores on every corner, you didn't have fast food, you didn't have the availability or the access to food that we have now. Now, that's all been a necessity to enable civilization to thrive and move forward. But at the same time, it's also given us access to food in ways that we've never had before. So we're eating it more, we're less active, we're not, 100 years ago, you had to put in a really hard day's work just to be able to eat.
Yeah.
So the idea of earning your food was a real thing. It wasn't just this thing you hashtagged on Instagram that says,
Right.
"Hey, I earned my donuts this weekend."
Nah, you really didn't yet.
Right? So it
Yeah.
was it was really hard 100 years ago to eat considerably more calories than you burned. But
Right.
we don't have that problem now. And that's why you see a lot of the maladies and dysfunctions that you see with metabolic syndromes and things like that now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always extreme or not. It's never the way it used to be.
Right.
It's a huge difference. Exactly what you said. Like there's person A that does a lot of working out and a lot of movement in life, and then there's person B who's like 80% of the world that
Hmm.
really doesn't do anything. And it's true, they have the accessibility to microwave something, to go next door, to order, to deliver it, or just even maybe cook on their own, but it's still in abundance.
I think it's a whole side conversation, and I don't know that that was really what we wanted to talk about today. But I mean, it's fascinating to think about the availability of food
Yeah.
now, and there's still look, there's still so many parts of the world that don't have, they are food insecure, but
Right.
there are so many of us, first world problems, right? There's your hashtag that, you know, it's like you said. I mean, we can walk around the corner, and most of us live less than a mile from 5, 10, 15. How many different places can you go get food within a mile,
Real, a lot.
right?
Enough.
So
Yeah, a lot. Jeez.
especially up there in New Jersey where you guys are.
Everywhere. You don't gotta do anything. You go to the city, even worse. You're in New
Yeah,
York, it's over. You
right,
just step out.
right.
17 stores, a McDonald's, three McDonald's within a mile. Like it's just crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
how fast it goes. All right. So hopefully that answered your question, guys.
Well, one other thing I'll just add to that is that I think we want to just the idea is you want to try to find balance, right? Find balance, find what works for you, and you know you don't necessarily need to be on one of the extremes.
right. But it's everyone's different.
Right,
Figure it out, and you need help. That's why we're here. It's
right.
pretty much the end case. My phone keeps shutting off and keeps taking my questions away. So I got to die.
Uh-oh.
So I did some research with your company that you work with, Natural Stacks. I know you guys use different types of supplementation than normally would.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, me as a person, I do take my own supplements, but there's one that you guys really focus on the most that I've been really been researching was stress, sleep, which I know everyone is deprived of, even myself. It's just one of those things that I feel like we become a world of go get it. Sleep is for pussies. Like it's stuff like that, and it,
Yeah,
it ingrains in your head like keep grinding, grind mode,
yeah.
beast it out. Like I get it. We do need to do that, but they're like just like our food. I feel like there has to be a balance. Now, what exactly do you guys stress the most with stress, sleeping, or whatever? Why is it so important to you guys?
Well, first of all, I think you touched on one thing with us with Natural Stacks. I mean, everything we do as far as a supplement company is trying to change the supplement industry. We want, we are open source, which means that in any product of ours, you're going to see exactly what ingredients are in it and exactly how much of each ingredient. So we never use proprietary blends, and we're actually trying to push to make that the industry standard instead of the industry exception. So in the next couple of years, you're going to see us do a couple of things that really try to push that and hold other companies accountable and to that same standard. So an example of this would be there was a UFC fighter just came out earlier this week. He's getting suspended for 6 months because he
That's
tested positive for a banned substance that was in a supplement he took, even though
right.
it wasn't on the label.
Yep.
Right, so that's exactly what we're trying to get rid of in the supplement industry, as well as using high quality ingredients. So, like with our whey protein, it's 100% grass fed, right? So we're not using any of the we're not cutting corners and cutting costs to get cheap stuff to
Right.
increase margins, right? And the idea for that was just that hey, That's it's the same reason you made your own gym. Like you thought there was a better way. You thought you could do it better. You thought you could provide a better service for the people that you care about, and that's what we're trying to do. As far as stress goes, you're right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's you look at social media and it's like, hey, you got to work hard and grind and don't sleep, and like you said, sleep is for pussies. And the one thing we know about mental performance and cognitive performance is near and dear to our heart at Natural Stacks, and that's one of the things that we focus on a lot. And we know that when we don't get enough sleep, one of the first things to go is our mental processing and our cognitive abilities. There are countless studies that support that and back that up. So, this idea of, hey, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I need to not sleep. Well, business is not fought with the body. Business is fought in the mind. The battlefield of business is the mind. And if you're not sleeping and your mind is compromised, well, what good are you? If so that's one thing is that we do stress. You need sleep. We all know that, and that number is different for everybody. So it's not like
Right.
I can say, hey, you've got to sleep 7.5 hours. But I'm really lucky in that I've gotten to interview a ton of experts, and several of the sleep and performance experts have all said the same thing, that if you need an alarm to wake up, you are sleep deprived.
Mm, interesting.
That one hurts. That one
That's
hurts
like, yeah,
because I don't know anybody that can wake up when they need to without an alarm.
right,
So, I think if we all had the luxury to do this,
right,
then what we could do is just not set an alarm for as many days as it took to kind of hit that reset button. And it might take some of us a week, it might take some of us 2 months, just depends on how big of a hole you're in right now. But look, I mean, I think we all realize that, hey, that's not a reality that most of us can do. We've got to get up, we've got kids, we've got
right.
work, whatever. Can't sleep till 10 every day. But on the weekends, if you can, try to. But then during the week and on a regular basis, what we need to do is we need to try to shut down earlier, and that's a mental thing too. You mentioned our cell phones, and we live in this world of, we take in so much more information on a daily basis than we ever have. We're constantly bombarded, so it does make it hard to shut off our minds. So one of the things that we can do is limit inputs. So if that's turning off your phone at 8 p.m., and that means no TV, just read a book. There's countless things we can do to reduce those inputs that help us start to unwind and wind down, which will promote better sleep. One of the other things that's really important to promote better sleep is to avoid blue light at night. So blue
Hmm,
light is it's the so we have the visual spectrum of light, and blue light is at the low end of that, but it stimulates wakefulness. So like it's almost like if you look at the sun, you have that like blinding white light when you look at the sun. Like that's on the extreme end of that blue spectrum. But blue light stimulates wakefulness, and the number one source of blue light in our lives are these screens, right?
right.
So this screen is bombarding me with blue light. Uh, this screen is bombarding me with blue light. Also, Wi-Fi, radiation. So you know, put your phones on airplane mode when you sleep. Okay, that'll help a lot.
Well,
Um, I have a blue blocker screen on here. I also have a blue blocker screen on my computer so that I can use them at night without being bombarded by light. You can get a blue blocker screen. You can just buy them online, or you can get, there's a program for computers called F-Lux. It's F.Lux. So just imagine spelling flux. And
okay.
it'll actually, you can set it to whatever time zone you're in, so that your screen, you'll actually see the light change
Really?
on your screen. Yep, as the sun goes down.
Whoa.
But what happens is when we're exposed to blue light, it decreases melatonin production, and it keeps you awake, and it does impact and alter your sleep. So those are a couple of practices that you can do that will help you unwind, help you get into sleep mode. From a supplement standpoint, something like serotonin brain food is one of our products that helps you deal with stress. We kind of call it vacation in a bottle or a chill pill. It's part of our brain food line where with excuse me, with all of our brain foods, we're providing they're nothing but vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that serve as the precursors to that specific neurotransmitter. And serotonin is a neurotransmitter that's responsible for governing fear, mood, anxiety. It helps you combat stress, deal with stress. It's like the best 5 o'clock alcoholic beverage you've ever had with no downside, right? Without the alcohol. But you
Right.
get that feeling of kind of vacation in a bottle. We've had a lot of people take that at night or in the evenings to help wind down, deal with stress. If you combine that with magnesium, which we know supports sleep, that's another great stack to help with sleep. Our magnesium is the only one that crosses the blood-brain barrier. It has magnesium. So our MagTech product is a complex magnesium L-threonate, magnesium glycinate, and magnesium taurate. And just a side note, any mineral that you take, zinc, magnesium, make sure that the form of that mineral ends in the letters ATE, and that's a chelated form of the mineral. So you don't want zinc oxide. You would want zinc glycinate or something like that. And
Yes.
that's how you know that it is bioavailable and easily absorbed by the body. So if you're taking magnesium oxide or magnesium or zinc oxide,
Right.
it's just expensive urine. It's just going right out.
Uh-huh.
But
You're
yeah, so
okay.
so with magnesium, it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. So you can't actually elevate concentrations of magnesium in your head except for this one form, magnesium L-threonate. They actually discovered it in a lab at UCLA about 20 years ago, searching for Alzheimer's treatments. And it's got a patent on it now out of MIT. It's in secondary clinical trials at Stanford. They're looking into it as anti-Alzheimer's medication because it increases magnesium concentration in the brain. Magnesium L-threonate has been shown to increase synapse density, so you have more synapses in your head to transmit information and do all the shit that your brain does, which is awesome.
Right.
It also lowers brain age by 9 years. It has the
Oh,
ability, yeah, it has the ability to take gray cells, which are neural cells that have not yet died, but they're moving towards cell death. It can bring them back to green or functioning neural cells. So this is an amazing compound, and it's just magnesium.
where is it? Like, why? Why
Well,
is he hiding? Like, why is
Well,
it?
yeah, there are a few companies that are putting it in their magnesium products.
Right.
We're one of them. It's in our MagTech. Um, I'm like you. I've taken supplements for a long time. I've never felt magnesium, but this is one. Within a week or two of taking it, you notice like, holy shit, I'm sleeping better. I'm feeling better, and within 2 weeks, it increases synapse density. So, you've got more neurons firing in your head. You're gonna start to
Right.
notice. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Well,
so those are great ways to deal with stress. We gave you some lifestyle things that you can work on,
right.
and a couple of supplements. So and that's our standpoint. Yes, we are a supplement company, but we want to look at lifestyle things first. And this running a gym is, if you don't have supplements are kind of like the aftermarket stuff on a car. If you don't have the wheels and the engine and all the other stuff in place, it doesn't matter.
Right. That's the next actual question. So it's pretty much talking about, but you kind of answered it. If you want to dig more into that, that's on you.
Sure.
We always feel that, I always say supplements is the word, right? If you break it down, it's
Hmm.
supplementary. So
Hmm.
you still need the wheels. You still need,
Yep.
the proper structure or, the base underneath it. Um, I don't know if you have anything else to add to it, but I think you kind of like hit it on the head.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, let's like take a protein powder, right? And we'll try to keep it fitness related because you run a gym. So, I mean, let's go back to that person. If I'm trying to lose 50 pounds, I'm sedentary. I don't have knowledge of nutrition, so I don't know how to feed myself. I don't know how to eat. If I make zero changes to my lifestyle, and then all of a sudden I add protein powder in, I'm not going to see the results that I want to see.
Right.
because I'm still not exercising, I'm still not eating right, I'm still not living the life. So, you know, supplements are a great way to optimize what you're doing and help you get the very best out of, the inputs that you're putting in. So if you're not, if you only sleep 4 hours a night, and you don't work out, if you don't eat right, you're not
Right.
going to get the results you want. So you have to live that lifestyle,
Right.
and you have to be constantly educating yourself and learning and trying to become the best version of you that you can be. And supplements can certainly help you do that. And that's our position is, and that's why we created the supplements that we've created. And our goal is to try to support anyone and everyone who's trying to become the best version of themselves. And we'll be the first to tell you that if you're not doing the big things, the important things, then supplements are not. They're not going to do it for you. There's no magic pill.
Right.
You got to do the work.
Exactly. And I really
But you
I
don't see.
admire you say that. What's up?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say. I mean, you don't see that. Like, imagine that if we put out an ad in some major newspaper or magazine, and it was like, oh, here, look at this beautiful box of supplements, and you have to do the work yourself, though.
Right.
Like, right? Like that doesn't sell.
No, it doesn't
Right.
work. It doesn't
Right.
work because, and some people do it that way. Like, this is what you need. This is the only way it works. You need this thing and this powder and this cleanse. And I'm like,
Right.
no, you don't, because once you're done, you're done. Like,
Right. Like
you have
what do
to,
you do after that? Like what okay, great. You made it through this 7-day cleanse, but now what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Do you know how to feed yourself? Do you know how to feed your family? And I mean, you and I know each other. We go back. I mean, I had a gym for 3 or 4 years, and I think one of the coolest things I've ever seen was educating an adult who had children,
yes,
and then you see the adult take what they've learned, they make the changes, they make this progress, but then it also trickles down into how they feed their family. And now this is a child, or doesn't matter how old they are, between 5 and 18 or whatever, they're learning stuff because, and that's the biggest issue, at least from a nutrition standpoint that I see, is that as Americans, we're not taught how to feed ourselves.
nope.
We know how to eat.
Right,
We don't know how to feed ourselves.
right. That's true.
Yeah.
It's a good way to put it too. And there's nothing more rewarding than watching someone like show me what they ate and then how they spun it and made it like a kid's meal, and now
Hmm.
their kids are healthier, more active, and it's just they're just paying. That's you guys. That's all you guys watching this right now.
Yep.
So big ups to you because this is why you're doing it, and that's why we're here to send a message, and that message just keeps continuing because your kids are gonna do the same exact thing, when they get older. So. It's huge. It's huge. I'm trying to read. Trying to read. Trying to read it like this.
It's all right.
When
You can hold it up. Do whatever you need to do.
I'm trying to be professional. Just kidding. When to eat. I don't know that I typed and my fat fingers didn't type that right. So it's pretty much food choices. What the hell does that mean? When to eat and we eat, or is that's that? No idea what the fuck that means. Next question. When to eat. This is what it says. When to eat, should we eat, that's or that. Okay. Meal timing.
Okay.
No. All right. Is there an importance toward that? And that's what that says, by the way. And if
Yep.
you guys get my emails, they know it's not autocorrected. So they get it.
So yeah,
Yeah.
meal timing and nutrient timing is a very very important thing, and it's a very cool thing to kind of dig into. Um, it's probably it's not a surface level thing. It's not a first change or a first priority change, right? So it's like if I'm a doctor, you learn triage, right? Like if somebody comes in with a bullet wound, you've got to stop that bleeding before you get to something else. So, you know, I don't normally talk about nutrient timing with someone unless everything else is already in place. So like if you still drink Coca-Cola, we've got things we need to work on before we talk about nutrient timing, right? If that makes sense. But nutrient timing is a way to manipulate insulin. That's really what we're trying to do. And manipulating insulin is the single most important thing that we can do to facilitate better body composition, better brain function, and better energy levels. So the way that we do that is to prevent blood sugar spikes,
Right.
which will ultimately result in blood sugar crashes.
Right.
So that's how we control energy fluctuations. But as blood sugar goes up, inevitably insulin comes up afterwards. And I equate insulin to like the honey badger. It doesn't give a shit. Insulin is like or another way to think about it is a snowplow going through the street, right? So, for you guys that live in New Jersey, imagine, I'm sure most people in New Jersey have experienced their car being buried under snow when a plow comes down the street and it piles it up on your car, right?
Yes.
The plow doesn't care where the snow goes. It just says, you got to get the hell out of the street, right?
Yep.
That's what insulin does. When insulin comes through your bloodstream, it doesn't care where the glucose goes. It just has to get the glucose out of your bloodstream. Okay?
Mm.
So there's two ways that we can get glucose out of our bloodstream. One is a process called non-insulin mediated glucose uptake. That's a really cool, I like saying that because it makes me sound smart, but it's a
Right.
really cool way of saying your muscles move and they say, hey, we need sugar, so we're going to pull glucose out of the bloodstream, right? So that's actually the mechanism that's responsible for young metabolisms, right? So
Got it.
we always, how many, you've, most people listening have probably said this. If they haven't said it, they've heard somebody say it. When I was younger, I could get away with blah, blah, blah. Or, you're 16, you have a fast metabolism. No, the truth is, it's because you don't stop moving, right?
Right.
Like if you watch a little kid, they don't stop moving. So, or a hummingbird's a great example. If you ever have a hummingbird feeder, you put sugar water in there because they don't stop moving. So their muscles, maybe a bad example because they have different physiology. But anyway,
Close.
the more you move, the more your muscles will pull glycogen or glucose into the muscle and store it as glycogen. Glycogen is a stored form of carbohydrates. We have a capacity or like a gas tank for glycogen that's between 100 and 3 or 400 grams of glycogen or carbohydrates that we can store in our muscles. The more muscle you have, the more glycogen you can store,
Right.
right? So, a 200-pound man with a lot of muscle mass can store more glycogen than a 100-pound female.
Right.
There's more muscle there, right?
Right.
So, so that's one way. You move the muscles, and they'll pull glucose into the muscle cell. The other way is insulin. So you have non-insulin mediated glucose uptake, and then you have glucose or insulin that just comes in like the snowplow, clears it out, right?
Right.
The problem with that is if your muscle cells aren't saying, hey, I'll take that glucose, give it to me, there's only one other place that it can go when it clears the bloodstream, and that is into our storage, our other storage, right? And if our other storage isn't muscle, what is it, Pete?
Fat.
Adipose tissue, right?
Adipose tissue.
So I
It's smart words.
no, well it is, but I like to say adipose tissue because it differentiates the storage in our body from the macronutrient fat.
Got
Because
it.
we want to start to
Got it.
plant that seed in people's head
Mm.
that the macronutrient fat, eating fat, is not
Right.
the same thing as adipose tissue, stored fat on our body. Because you have like this is coffee, right?
Right.
I drink coffee with added oil and added butter.
Right.
And people are like, "Oh, well, you drink butter? Like why are you not fat?" Well, because my metabolism works correctly and I understand, how all that stuff works. And we're happy to teach it to people. But
Right.
that's a prime example of the misconception with
It's
eating
good.
fat makes you fat,
Right.
right? The truth is, if your body is functioning the way it was designed to, then eating fat helps you burn fat. And if your body is fat adapted, then you will continue to burn fat in the absence of eating calories.
Right.
And that's the important thing. So when we talk about nutrient timing, when we talk about meal timing, the idea is to create an environment in your body where you're fat adapted. Because look, most people watching this, most people in the gym would like to lose body fat, right? So the way to do that, if insulin is present, insulin is a storage hormone. It's anabolic. if insulin is present, we cannot burn body fat for fuel.
Got it.
Okay, so you'll never pull fat from the storage and burn it for fuel when insulin's present. It just doesn't happen.
That's true. Mhm.
So so if we want to burn fat, then we need to have insulin down, which means we can't be eating carbohydrates all the time.
Right.
So there is a way to time it. Personally, the way I teach it, and I don't know how far down into this rabbit hole we want to go on this thing, but you know, if the bulletproof diet and carb backloading and the paleo diet all had a love child, it would be what I call the Muncie method, and that's how I teach people to eat.
Right.
But I think when we wake up in the morning, we are primed to burn fat for fuel. The worst thing we can do is eat carbohydrates early in the morning. Okay,
Right.
so this whole idea of even if it's oatmeal, right?
Right.
We've been it's that bro science. We've been ingrained that oatmeal is a great thing to eat. If you're trying to gain mass, or if you're a teenager, or if you're playing sports all day long, that might be a good idea. But for the average person, especially adults, carbs at breakfast are not a good idea. Even if they're oats, doesn't matter what kind of carb it is. You're introducing glucose to the system, which produces an insulin boost, which when insulin is present, these other hormones that were rising in the morning. So cortisol is a hormone that's responsible for getting us up out of bed. It actually peaks when we rise and get out of bed in the morning. That should be the highest spot, or the highest amount of cortisol present in our body all day long. So for anybody listening, if you don't know what cortisol is, it's a stress hormone. That's what helps you get up and get going and get out of bed in the morning. When cortisol peaks, there are other hormones that follow it. No hormone in our body works by itself. There's this concert of everything playing off of everything. So we have to know how anything we do affects any other hormone. So if we eat carbohydrates and insulin spikes, then cortisol immediately dips, all the other cortisols dip. If we
Right.
don't enter, and the worst thing that you can do is have insulin and cortisol present at the same time. Because now you've got storage hormone and the stress hormone present at the same time. And that's how we get stored body fat, especially belly fat.
Ah.
Okay? So the easiest thing that you can do to see greater mental clarity, greater energy, and significant progress in terms of belly fat loss is to cut carbs from your morning.
Yep.
Okay, carbs would be best post workout because the muscles have been moving, so
Right.
they're saying, "Hey, I'll pull those carbs in." Okay, and or at the evening meal. Women tend to need carbohydrates more frequently than men.
Right.
So when I work with women, I have them eat one serving of carbohydrates in the evening at dinner. So it could be rice, could be sweet potatoes, could be whatever carb you want. Men, as a default setting, it's one serving per day at the dinner meal for women. For men, there's really no default setting because it varies from person to person. And
Right.
then within that default setting, it'll either go up or down based on individual goals and individual activity levels,
Okay.
right? So there's no one size fits all. But by doing that, and by limiting our carbohydrate windows, we're limiting the windows of time in which insulin is elevated. So if
Right.
you look at like a graph of, let's see, I'm trying to figure out how I'll be seen. So like if the vertical axis is insulin and the horizontal axis is time, you want as little area under that curve as possible,
Got it.
because that will give you the greatest amount of time in your day and your week without insulin being present, which means you spend more time with the ability to burn body fat for fuel, right? So we don't want a whole lot of time under that curve. So it's like, okay, no carbs, no carbs, no carbs. A little bit we recover, a little bit we recover. So you have minimal time under that curve. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
That's what nutrient timing, that's what meal timing is really designed to do.
Keep it pretty safe. I told you this guy was smart. I told you this guy was smart.
Yeah.
Now, Jesus, And recently, probably the past, I'd say half year. So what's that? 6 months. I haven't been intaking carbohydrates, and I used to just eat whatever,
Right.
whatever's available.
Right.
Phoenix has got this, and I felt like that parent. It's like, oh, there's food, and whatever we're gonna eat, we gotta eat because we gotta worry about him. But now that it's a little bit more in control, I really started to control it. I feel 10 times better. And just to test it was this morning.
Hmm.
I ended up just eating a serving of potatoes because I didn't want them to go bad. So I had that with my regular protein, and I'm crashing. Like my
Hmm.
eyes were getting tired. I'm not going to take caffeine because I'm going to get anxiety. I had an anxiety attack yesterday, so I'm staying away from that
Right.
shit. But it's such a big difference. And for someone
Yeah.
like me, I'm reaching age 40, even though I look like I'm 12. Like I'm 40, right? Asian 14 or 40. That's like Mr. Miyagi, or you look like that bad guy from Rush Hour who has blonde hair. There's no difference. Like the new bad kid from Karate Kid with Jaden Smith,
Oh
who's
my
I'm
gosh.
bigger badass than Johnny. I don't care what it says.
Well, so this is what you experienced is it's a cool testimonial for what we're talking about. I mean, I'm sorry it happened, and we don't want anybody to have to feel
No,
that. But it's proof that when you get on that sugar pathway or the carbohydrate pathway. So look, there's really no difference between being a sugar burner or a carb burner because all carbohydrates are broken down into glucose molecules. That's the usable form of carbohydrate. Good carbs are labeled good because they're complex and it takes longer to break them down into glucose than something that is like white bread or table sugar that is very, very close to being glucose already.
right,
Okay. So no matter what, even the best carb imaginable, if there was a perfect carb, it still is broken down into glucose.
no matter what.
That's the usable form, right? So if you're on the carb cycle or the carb pathway, you're burning sugar for energy, right? So when you run out, we don't have the ability, our bodies don't switch, and that fogginess, that crash that you feel is that temporary lapse in available fuel.
Right,
So that's why you feel foggy. That's why you crash. Like if you've ever eaten, like I know you and I have both been on that like 6, 7, 8 meals a day thing way in the past, where each
yep,
of those meals had some carbohydrates.
yeah,
You're looking at your clock and you're like, man, if I don't eat, it's like, oh, it's 20 minutes till my next meal. If I don't eat, I'm gonna lose muscle. Bullshit, doesn't happen. Um, or like I've got to crawl under my desk because I'm hangry. That's a combination of hungry and angry, and I'm just not functioning.
right,
Another example of this proof is the bonk in an endurance race. You
oh yeah,
think about somebody in a marathon, right? So if you bonk because you ran out of goo packs or gel packs or whatever that dumb shit is that people do, please, if you're watching this and you do that shit, don't do it. You're better off with MCT oil or some other kind of fat because if you keep insulin down and you stay in that fat burning path, we all have stored body fat on our body, right? So
right,
if a marathoner bonks when they're on the sugar cycle,
right,
yet they have excess body fat, why can't they just say, all right, well, I'm out of sugar, let's start burning body fat? Well, in theory, the most healthy person who has the most metabolic flexibility can make that transition quickly. There's still downtime, there's still lag there. So you're better off just being fat adapted and staying in that fat pathway, and you never have that temporary lapse of no fuel source, and that's what you're feeling when you eat the potatoes, and then you inevitably you'll crash. You have that mental fogginess and kind of sluggishness, and that's your body reaching, and it's out of sugar, and it's like,
right,
well, now what do I do?
right. It sucks. It's
Yeah,
not fun, man.
yeah.
It's like it makes you not, and I'm sure it's not just me. It's everyone
It's
else
it's
out there.
everybody. It's
Everybody.
science. If you're a human, that's how your body operates.
That's the way it is,
Yeah.
and that's why at your desk at 9 o'clock or 10, you want to go to sleep. It's not because you woke up at 4. It's because you had an oatmeal, and now a combination of both sucks. So
Yep.
figure it out.
Yep.
Figure it out. That was really good. That was really good. I don't know what other questions. Food choices, supplements. If you want to brush on it, how important are caloric needs in people? Meaning, 1,200 calories is a staple since Vietnam War. So for I don't even know if that's not a real statement or a fact. I like using the word Vietnam for some reason. But 1,200 calories. That's like no matter what you weigh, this is what you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
How true is that, and what exactly should people be doing?
So hormones and chemicals and how foods affect us on a cellular and genetic level are so much more important than calories. Every food, everything that you put into your body sends a signal to your body. It turns on or turns off genes. It impacts hormones, like we talked about with insulin and cortisol. And not only that, but it's literally the raw materials that make up new cells. So
Right.
if you look at like certain organs have different cellular turnover rates, but the cells that are your liver are not the same cells that were your liver 6 months ago.
Hmm.
Where did those cells come from? What did your body use to make them? Well, they didn't go outside and gather leaves,
Right.
right? You ate spinach, or you ate fast food, or you ate popsicles, whatever. The food you eat becomes the cells in your body. So when we say what you eat is more important than how much you eat, that's why. Now that being said, calories do matter to an extent. If I'm a 100-pound sedentary female and I eat 10,000 calories a day,
Right.
I'm probably going to gain weight. But here's the thing: if you eat the right foods and you don't have insulin and blood sugar issues, appetite and hunger is auto regulating. It's very hard to overeat significantly with the good foods and the right foods at the right times
Got it.
compared to like so an example of like, we went to the movies last night, right? um it we saw Central Intelligence with The Rock and Kevin Hart. it's
Okay.
it's amazing. I highly
Good.
recommend it. It's
All
awesome.
right.
It's awesome. um but like you go to the movies now and they have these like giant jugs of you know
Everything. Yeah.
Coca-Cola, right?
Right.
There's like even the smallest one of those things has like 100 grams of sugar in it.
Right.
So let's just say that was oatmeal, right? And
Yeah.
100 grams of oatmeal is like what a cup of oatmeal is 54 carbs. So like that's 2 cups of oatmeal to get about 100 grams of carbs. So like I think that's a good visual. People can all relate to how easy it would be to drink this much soda,
Right.
right? We'll get the whole thing in the screen versus how full you're going to feel after 2 cups of like you add water and cook 2 cups of oatmeal, it's going to expand to like 4 cups and
Right.
right. So it's like the calories and this is also coming like at the very beginning we'll go full circle. I mentioned you kind of have to understand why people are saying what they're saying and what their goals are.
Right.
I'm a recovering fitness addict, right? So my standpoint is I've lived that life where it was eating
Hmm.
food that I couldn't eat food without measuring it. I
Right.
couldn't eat without being watching the clock. And like I was a fitness model and a bodybuilder. And I had these elaborate spreadsheets on my computer where it's like I need this many calories at this much. Like I don't want to live my life that way anymore, right? So like you have to understand that's where I'm coming from. I don't want to be worried about food. I want food is a way for me to feel my best and be at my best so I can do all the cool shit that matters. Help
Right.
people, hang out with people, do cool stuff, go exploring, go on adventures.
Right.
Food is just the way, I know that everything I put in my body is either going to help enhance those things or it's going to take away. So I want it to be something that gives me energy, keeps me thinking clearly and allows me to go do all the cool shit that I want to do with minimal investment in terms of time and, worrying about all that stuff. So it's like, all right, look, these foundations or these guidelines, and I know that grass-fed beef is really good for me, and I know that organic spinach is really good for me, and I know that this healthy salad dressing or healthy mayonnaise is really good for me. I'm
Right.
not going to worry about whether or sweet potato, right? That's a prime example where in those bodybuilding days I would have freaked out, and Pete, maybe you were there too, where it's like, how many carbs are in this sweet potato? Is it
Right.
is it 35? Is it 42? Is it
Right.
45? Because I'm
Also,
supposed to have 40 carbs at this meal, and I'm going to have an aneurysm if I
I
don't know,
fucking hate that shit, man.
right?
It drives me
That's
nuts.
that's no way to live life, and that's where, like, it's dude, it's a sweet potato. Get over it. Like, if you're eating a sweet potato, and it'll all balance out. Like, maybe tomorrow it's a little more, maybe today it's a little less. And that's why I say calories don't matter. Look, if you're there are some people where it does matter. If you're a competitive athlete and you're in a weight class and you've got to make weight, maybe you need to be watching it. There are certain times where it matters, but for the most part, for the average person, what you eat and how it impacts you at an epigenetic level, at a hormone level, at a cellular level, all that stuff is so much more important than the
Right.
total calories that you eat.
Hands down.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that 1000%. That's a good way to put it because we definitely live that lifestyle. And I preach about this all the time that I don't want anyone to live that lifestyle, even
right.
though I feel like it's happening, like through social media and hashtagging and the way it's happening, man. Like
Yeah,
it's becoming a norm to food prep and measure everything. And I get it. You're gonna get the results because those are people that are living that lifestyle. They're physique competitors, but
right.
fucking mom and dad, dude, like
Well, and it's a shame that it has turned food prep into something that it shouldn't have to be. Because look, I don't care how you eat, you have to food prep.
right,
In the world that we live in, eating healthy and eating the right way is never going to happen by accident.
right,
You do have to be proactive about that. You do have to go to the grocery store. You can't eat what you don't have.
right,
All right, I love telling people that because it works both ways. If you don't buy bullshit, you won't have bullshit at your house. You can't eat it in a moment of weakness.
right,
You also, if you don't go buy the right stuff, it's hard to do meal prep, and it's really easy to say, "Oh, well, I didn't eat right yesterday because I didn't have the stuff I needed at home." Right?
right,
So you can't eat what you don't have. But you have to go buy it, you have to prepare it, and you have to have it in order to be able to eat it. So you do have to do food prep, but you're right. Like, what food prep has turned into in terms of weighing and measuring everything and making it into social media, and yeah, it doesn't need to be that way.
No, I wish it wasn't because I feel bad for them. I do because it could stir into something such worse. And you even said you used the term fitness, not fitness addict, something else. I'm an addict of
Yeah,
fitness. Whatever.
like a recovering fitness.
That was it.
I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah,
Right,
it's like, yeah. I mean, now it's just like, look, where I am today is, we know as human beings that we're designed to move often and in various ways.
right,
We know that we're designed to eat real food, not as much of it as, the average person does today, and that's it. You can keep it that basic. Eat real food, make smart choices, eat like an adult, and move frequently and in various ways. Like, I mean, humans are the Swiss Army knives of movement,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
so have fun, do cool shit, move in different ways.
Play and move, man.
Yeah,
That's it. Have fun doing it.
yeah.
It's funny. I was going to ask you what three things would you like to say as a closing. You just gave me like four of them. I was like,
All right, there you
that
go.
was it. I mean, yeah, that's the whole message. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, life is about more than food and fitness. As much as the fitness industry would have you believe otherwise, what we do in terms of exercise and eating is to enhance the rest of our life. Unless you're a competitive athlete, and in that case, look, if you get paid, or if it's paying for your college, then it's a different story. But
Right.
I don't think that's where most people watching this are.
Right.
And if that's who you are, then we change some things.
Yeah. It starts down to even, with injury stuff, it's like
Yeah,
people push, but, I'm guilty as charged. I'm jacked up because that was the lifestyle. I thought I was going to get paid for what I was doing, and that was the goal. And
right.
I didn't, but you fought through injuries, you did all this stuff. And it's just on another side topic, but it's almost equivalent to how people treat food versus treat that. And, just finding that balance, I believe, is really big.
Yeah, yeah. It's big for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, I got no more questions. Do you have anything that you want to close up on with us,
No,
please?
man, I think that was great. For your guys, for the people at Crank, I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm happy to do this on a semi-regular basis. If you guys want to get Pete questions, because this is cool. I mean, this is something that we can record. We can get it to you guys. We can actually get it to other people too. So if you have questions, you can either get them to Pete, and Pete, you can collect them, or if you want to send them to me, on a question by question basis as they come in, I
Yeah.
can try to get answers to people that way too. But I'm here. We're here to support you guys. At Natural Stacks, our hashtag is Live Optimal, and that's what we want. We want people to live the dream life that they imagine for themselves. And if there's a way that I can help provide answers for people, then I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. Awesome, man.
So
And that's it.
all right,
That was really, and just so you guys know, I didn't mail him any questions. Like these were right off the cuff. We're just talking. This is probably something we would have talked about if we were in front of our faces with a bunch of questions. Little more into other
it
stuff.
probably would have been less filtered or censored if we were in
Yeah,
person. But yeah,
get angry, throw stuff, whatever.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
funny. But yeah, thank you so much for the interview. Thank you for
yeah.
helping our gym out and our members out. And I know that they're going to benefit from this.
Yeah.
So
My
again,
pleasure.
guys,
My pleasure. Thanks,
awesome.
thanks, Pete. Always good to catch up with you, man.
Always is.
All right.